friend of Virginia, and many of you all know Virginia very well, and we've known each other for a couple of years now.
4 years.
4 years.
4
yes.
years, because it started during COVID.
That's right. That's right.
And we started our internship.
Yeah, we did an internship together at Dr. Fiddler's office. I think some of you all are familiar with Riverdale Herbs, and that's where we met. And then we stayed in touch, and we would meet for lunch and do a lot of collaboration and learning from each other, and attended some medical training conferences together, and went to Florida together for some training. And so we stayed in touch, and then recently Virginia reached out, came over to see the baby, and mentioned that Jeremy was getting a promotion to Texas, and asked if I would be interested in coming to work here at the Maryville office a little bit. And so at the time I wasn't for sure. She had just been born, and we were doing some expanding over in Morristown, but Dr. Johnson and I talked about it, and the more I sat on it and thought about it, it felt like it was the right next step. So I'll be here in Maryville a couple of days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, to help support clients through their natural healing journey. So a lot of what Dr. Bell does is what I do as well, where it's natural health consulting, guiding you in your health, and pointing you into some natural healing, and also performing muscle testing. So who here has done muscle testing or had muscle testing done on you? Oh, okay. Well, you all are the experts. Okay, so you know what muscle testing is. Well, I brought a little visual tool to explain muscle testing, but I don't know if any of you want to know why it works. Well, because we're all energy, right? We all have energy flowing through us, and that is the beautiful part about energy and frequency. It really is the future when it comes to medicine, because it is very sensitive. And maybe you've had this experience where you went and got some lab work done, and you brought your labs into your doctor, and everything looks normal, but you still feel off a little bit. And oftentimes there's some energetic interference happening deeper in the body that hasn't been quite resolved yet. Whether it's physical or emotional, they both impact the body. And so it really has to do with energy and your frequencies. And that's why muscle testing works. So to explain it well, this is called an energy stick, right? And so this kind of can explain how a circuit and energy is flowing through all of us. And do I have any volunteers? I promise you won't die. I won't shout. I'll do it. All right. All right. So what do you do? So if you'll turn around this way, there you go, perfect. And I'm going to have you hold one end of it, and then if you can put your hand on the other end of it, and it lights up. Because we created a circuit.
And you completed it.
Now, we completed it. Now and who else wants to be a volunteer?
Make her do it.
Make her do it?
Come here, Chris.
Would you be open to?
Okay, whatever.
Okay.
She makes me do weird stuff.
All right. So you can put your hand on there, and nothing happens until if you will touch both of your hands together, you've now created a circuit.
We are sisters.
So we've now the energy is now connected right between you all, and that is why muscle testing works. Is as we test the different organs and look for the different organs in the body, we then test your indicator muscle, which is the deltoid muscle, and we look to see if there's stress there. Okay, and then if there's stress, the arm will give a little bit. It indicates that there's some stress. So then we can find out, why is there stress? Is there a toxicity load? Maybe there's heavy metals or parasites or some environmental toxins, or maybe there's emotional stress there. And then we can provide some support to the body and retest to see if it goes back up to a strength or strong muscle. And it's a beautiful way that's very gentle, very non-invasive, that goes deeper than often a lot of even lab work. So it's a great combination. You can pair the two together to really get deeper insight into the body. All right, so that's a brief overview. Does anyone have any questions about muscle testing or natural health in general before I introduce Dr. Johnson? No? Okay. Beautiful. Well, so it was about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, over in Morristown. So as many of you may know, I own Holistic Wellness Center in Morristown, and we have a variety of natural healing modalities. Some that are similar to what you all have experienced here, and then a few additional things. And we do IV nutrition, hyperbaric, and a few other modalities that require some medical oversight. And so we've had a medical director to help us with that process. And I was really needing and searching for a medical director that was more like-minded, that we were more aligned in the holistic mindset. And as you know, it's really, really hard to find a licensed medical doctor who believes in integrative medicine and believes in holistic medicine and doesn't call it woo-woo, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, long story short, I was a little desperate, and I knew I needed to make a change, and so I went to good old Google. After praying, I did pray, but then I was like, now what am I going to do? And actually, it was my husband. I was really frustrated. We went out to eat, and we came back home, and I'm just like, kind of venting to him of how I'm going to find someone like who believes like I do. I don't even know where to start. And he's just on his phone, and he pulls up Google, and he just starts Googling, and I was like, I guess I could start there. And so he went to bed, and I kept Googling and just looking through, and lo and behold, I came across Dr. Johnson's. He had just joined Nutrition World in Chattanooga a few months before, and I thought, well, if a medical doctor is working out of Nutrition World, that's a big positive sign that they're interested in natural health. And so I reached out to him and sent him an email, and we connected. And we started having some conversations and realized that we really did align with a lot of the principles. And so shortly after that, he came up to Morristown, and he's just been a wonderful addition to what we do to help our clients heal naturally in both the physical, but also emotionally and spiritually. And I am beyond grateful that God allowed our paths to cross. And it's been a beautiful collaboration. And I'm excited for you all because you all now have access to that collaboration. So he's available for those that are here, available for telehealth, but I'll let him introduce himself and tell you about him. But he's got great experience in both conventional medicine. He's triple board certified in palliative care, family medicine, and integrative health. So he's got a lot of knowledge when it comes to what traditionally you might get done for a certain treatment, but then how do we look at it from a whole body approach and blending them together. And it's a really wonderful harmony when you can see the whole picture like that. So without further ado, here is Dr. Johnson. Okay, sounds good.
I'm so glad you're being
Yes, awesome.
Somebody tell us what your favorite thing about Inspirational Medicine is so far. What's your favorite thing about this clinic?
Hope. Gives
Hope.
people hope.
Well, that's a big
Yes.
deal. Gives people hope.
Yes,
What
very
else?
much
What?
so.
What?
You can actually talk to the doctor.
You can actually talk to the doctor.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yeah.
I usually get, when I go for my physicals yearly,
Yeah.
I get 10.
Yeah, if you're lucky. But Judy was described by Gigi.
In Virginia,
Yeah, Gigi.
yeah.
But she said Gigi's.
G-
Only if you're
Gigi
holding
for
little
baby.
Gigi. She said she's one of her sweetest, and I said, why does she like you so much? And she said, because I'm just like her. I'm sweet and mischievous. She said yes. She immediately said, yes, that's right. And they started doing this little patty cake thing. Y'all really are mischievous. So, who else? What's your favorite thing about the clinic?
True health.
True health. Tell me more about that. What do you mean true health?
Really finding the cause of issues and dealing with it, and not just to mask the symptoms, but really go to the root of it.
Absolutely, 100%. By the way, if you'd be willing to share, have you also found that some of the roots are energetic or emotional or kind of cumulative from your life experiences? They're not just in the tissues, they're in your energy?
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of times actually, Dr. Bell helped me to see something that I didn't even know. Like I didn't know what stress did to me and stuff like that. All of that, basically, I made up of everything, emotional, everything. So basically, just so in many different ways, that was the dress, and that helped me to see what the issues are. So, like I was dealing with an issue with a cyst that basically I was seeing an oncologist who wanted to cut me open to do all that stuff, and I said no.
Yes.
And then so Dr. Bell helped me to find the supplements that I need, and also I also have biofeedback done, and just a combination of different things. It shrunk so much that that doctor was like, yeah, you don't need to keep back this. So,
Would you tell us would you be willing to tell us what the emotional component was for you?
like, through that process,
And what was the emotional component of the cyst, do you think?
oh,
Stress.
the stress and everything, yeah, just to know that, like, there are other ways to do it, and also, like, it's really a great community to support, to know that, like, you don't have to be cut, and you don't have to take things that, I don't even know what they are, and they're actually stuff that God made, that it's meant to help us, and, it's a big relief.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Everybody agree with that story? Does that sound true? Anybody else have something they want to say that's been wonderful about the clinic so far?
They all love and care for us.
Yes.
You know, they're just all of them just are very loving and caring, and they make us feel like they care about us. And that they really do want to help us.
Yeah.
They're not just,
All you need is love. Love really is what carries the day, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, look at that. There's your legacy. How does that feel?
She's going
Don't
to
cry.
I feel like God, I pray every morning that God will send me people that need help, and I feel like just operating through Him, I'm just grateful to be able to help people, because I feel like that's what my gift and talent is.
So that same spirit, that same energy that's done it so far was the same person who picked Charity. And she's the one who picked me. So you have every reason to believe that all of these good things that you've been experiencing are going to continue and maybe grow even more, right? So that's very exciting.
And it's just not another clinic. It's not just another clinic. It's all the doctors, the therapists who have compassion, and they're not pushy, like you gotta keep going and going. They say you get so far, you might not need it anymore, or you might use this product for a while, but then you're done, I mean, you're okay. I mean, just personalized compassion and care.
Can I borrow that?
There's a power.
I mean, really, that's.
It is, it is.
Can I really borrow that?
Just add my name to it.
Some royalty fees.
Can you get a clip?
I just want to mention too, it really, like, not just us, but my family and other states hear about it. So my parents are coming down from New York next week, and they're gonna have biofeedback done.
Fantastic.
And so we're trying, and they are not into anything natural, but they're so interested because they saw what happened to me. So basically, so many people are getting benefit from learning, and really, and I was just talking to Whitney, we're hoping that that opens the door, that they see that, oh, I don't have to be cut open and stuff like that in order to have things change.
Fantastic.
So anyway, so just want to mention that.
It is the bigger win, isn't it?
It is.
Right? It's the bigger win. We all help each other get better.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So, does anybody have a question for me that they particularly would like to ask?
So
It's okay if you don't.
what do you oversee? Do you oversee the medical part? What part is that?
So, this clinic currently would not probably have what I do, which is a blend of what Charity said, what you would call conventional care and holistic care. So I still might offer an opportunity to have some intense labs done, some deep functional labs, some broad spectrum genetic labs, and then bring sort of that level of understanding. But constantly be thinking about what are our holistic options around that, and sort of creating a custom plan to do something like that, and then eventually maybe offering an opportunity for there to be maybe a physician assistant in the office, so that it could truly be a one-stop shopping clinic. You would never need to go to a traditional place. You could,
That's my dream.
if we needed. There are some things on the conventional side that help. they come with a price, but they help, and sometimes they can be used. So the idea is to say, well, all right, any port in a storm, but maybe that port becomes a bridge to somewhere else, and maybe we see someone that has high blood pressure, and they really do have to take some some conventional pills for a little while we move them as a family to somewhere else. And so, but you have to have a license to practice medicine, and so that I would bring that license, and then that person could be here. And you can always have a virtual visit with me. I tend to think of myself as sort of the kind of the head coach. And you're only a really good head coach, but the head coach doesn't, he calls the timeout and decides 4th and 1. That's basically his job. But he needs to have a really good defensive coordinator, and he has a good offensive coordinator, and a good special teams coordinator, and a good recruiter, and a good strengthening coach. So I tend to serve more as a good head coach. But I'm also available for direct one-on-one care. That's virtual right now because I'm actually in Chattanooga. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, because my parents, they're struggling, they're learning more and more, and then they see that this is actually better, but they have been loaded with
Yes.
medication.
Yeah.
They're afraid to make any changes, because
Yeah.
they're not going to want it
Yeah.
for them to move. So is that something that you can help basically to see, and then so you can monitor that progress, and if they want to eventually phase out of that?
Half of my everyday life is people say, I want off of these and onto those, but I want a knowledgeable MD to hold my hand while we make this transition.
Yeah,
That's exactly what
Yeah. So,
Because as you guys all know, we are not allowed to take you off of any medication that we don't put you on, which is any kind of pharmaceutical. So anytime a patient wants to come off a medication, I always have to tell them to consult their medical doctor first, because there are certain medications that have to be titrated down in a certain way. You can't stop them immediately because that can cause more health complications, and this would be the perfect.
and even if, you usually run into two things. Usually if that person goes back and tells their regular doc, I want to come off of this, usually what they get is, no. You're wrong, no. And there's the door if you don't want me to do it, right? That's usually what you get. If you do get one that goes, okay, sometimes they go, I don't know what to do. Or you get one that's worse, it goes, well, we're gonna do it this way, right? So there are only 5 board certified integrative doctors in all of Tennessee. And I'm one of them. So if you really want one who's fellowship trained, who is interested and who actually knows what he's doing, to walk you through that. But I can't be everywhere at once, so that's why I'm partnering to try and she said it well, to spread the seed, to spread God's healing life abroad.
That is really great. That gives them hope. I can't wait to share with them, because
I do that all the time.
He feels that he is stuck.
Yeah.
But to know that there's a way out.
I do that all the time. One of the other areas that I do it with a lot of people who are on mental health medications, anxiety medications, antidepressant medications, and those are very complicated. They're also very toxic, and they also have lots of interactions. And so helping people get to the root of why am I anxious and sad in the first place, while we gently come off of those and gently do some energetic work and gently do some other work. And then just one other little tidbit about me, which is I'm also one of the, I don't know many in Tennessee, but I'm a master certified trauma therapist.
Oh, wow.
So I actually have deep training. I actually consider myself well, my wife is a true gardener, so I'd like to be a gardener. I've seen that job, it's very hard. I'm just a hired help in the garden. I'm really a soil scientist, right? Judy comes in and she says, look, Bryan, the gardenia blooms of Judy just aren't what they used to be. They don't smell like they used to smell. They fall off sometimes. They get little spots on them. And I went and saw this other guy and he gave me a fungicide to spray on it. And then I went and saw this other guy and he gave me a pesticide to spray on it. And I just don't want to do that. And then I went and saw this other doctor who said, well, maybe if we trim off a little bit of the stem and get a biopsy of the stem, maybe that's where the problem is. And then I saw another doctor who said, well, maybe it's down in the bark, and if we do this core biopsy and this fancy x-ray, we'll find out why your gardenia blooms aren't as gardenia as you want them to be. That gardenia bloom really is actually nothing more than the final manifestation of whatever's been going on in the soil all this time, isn't it? I mean, it is quite literally the final expression of the soil in which Judy has been growing all of this time. And that soil is emotional, it's relational, it's financial, it's personal, it's geographical, it's toxins, it's all kinds of things. So I don't even go for the root cause. I get all the way down into the soil. And the soil is our emotional being, our spiritual being, our soulful being. And that being is the one from whom the flower of our life arises. So if you work your way all the way back down in that, then the gardenia bloom takes care of itself. It starts to reflect better soil. We get the red clay out, we get the tin cans out, and we get, the weird stuff out of the soil, and we amend it with some life. But you have to both get it out and put some other in, and then the gardenia bloom takes care of itself. So I'm really a soil scientist. And that's my favorite thing to do, is to get into the soil. And the longer I've done this, which has been almost 30 years now, the more I realize that most of life happens on that emotional, energetic, soulful plane. And you need someone who really can understand how to get in there and work it out. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Vanderkolk that talks about that mind-body-spirit connection. So that's what I do with the other 50% of my day. 50% of my day I help people get off of conventional drugs and on to something else, and hopefully on to nothing else. And oh, by the way, when did your heart get broken in the first place? And who cares about that? I do. And until we fix your broken heart, then we won't really have the long-term health that you want. So, yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to tell you about my experience of meeting Dr. Virginia. And I consider her a doctor, even though some people don't want her to be called a doctor. I met her at Wares Valley at the taco truck place. And we talked for quite some time about issues. And then my daughter and I, you went the first time, we started going to her at the other office, and she's helped me in numerous ways. And recently found out some, I think, enormous information through a DNA test. So that's getting ready to make a big difference, I think, too. So
Good.
I'm going to miss her immensely. But I'm glad to have Charity and you and the rest of the people. But I think I'll still keep in touch with it.
That's wonderful.
But
Maybe you go down to Texas and have tacos.
maybe.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tacos in Texas.
They're really big.
So, any other thoughts or questions? Anybody have anything that they would like to ask
I
me?
do have a question. When you say that you spend 50% of your time doing that other kind of work, what does that look like? Like, do you talk on the phone with people? Or what
Yeah,
is it?
so unless you want to come to Chattanooga, it's virtual. It actually falls under the banner of something called coherence therapy, which is a type of somatic therapy. And I'm a master certified memory reconsolidation therapist. And to actually help you get all the way down into really what happens to us in life are experiences. We have experiences, and we try to process that through our body. Then we try to make sense of it in our mind. And then we choose a behavior to try to deal with that situation. That behavior then gets embedded as what you and I would call a belief. And then that belief, it gets embedded in our unconscious mind. And usually sometimes later in life it pops out at the worst opportune moment. And it causes all kinds of trouble. And we wonder why we can't stop doing that. So we figure out how did that get installed in the first place. But you can actually do memory reconsolidation therapy, which would look a lot like guided imagery, kind of a session, some neuro-linguistic programming to actually help you get your subconscious mind to come out and play and tell you what happened. And then to actually give you time to process all of that. Carl Jung said, because feelings are not allowed to be felt in real time. By the time we get to this point in our life, we've all had some feelings come up, but the baby was crying and the cake was burning and the boss was calling and the mortgage had to be paid, and I just couldn't. I just had to say, no, I have to deal with life, okay? But a lot of times when we're little as well, I mean, I'll just tell you, when I was little, my mother, whom I love, I had a great conversation with her this morning. She did a fantastic job. When I was 4 years old, one time, was spanking me and said, stop that crying or I'll give you something to cry about. So I learned a strategy that said, don't cry. I learned a strategy that said, don't feel, in order to align with somebody who has authority over my life. So for the rest of my life, anytime someone with authority over my life would tell me something stupid, so I would align with them, that program would fire off for me and it would run. Because when I was 4, I wasn't allowed to let my feelings be felt fully in real time. That's what I mean by emotional contamination. And Carl Jung said emotions that aren't allowed to be felt fully in real time don't actually die. They just get buried alive, only to rise as nearly unrecognizable zombies later on. Sometimes it's a cyst, sometimes it's cancer, sometimes it's migraine, sometimes it's Hashimoto's, sometimes it's rheumatoid arthritis, sometimes it's diabetes, sometimes it's high blood pressure, sometimes it's insomnia, right? That's the gardenia bloom. We don't want to spray the gardenia bloom with fungus, we want to find out why. My experience has been that is why. So it's usually an hour-long session where, with some advanced training I have, it's kind of hard to describe. Just hold. Actually, I'm a soil scientist. Am I taking too much time?
No.
No, we're
So,
fascinated.
I'm also a spaceman. My wife said, "What is it you do?" I said, "I'm a spaceman." She said, "Tell me more." And I said, what I do really is I pray every morning that God will send me somebody I really can help today in a way that helps me come as alive as I possibly can. And my favorite thing to do is actually to create space to give you the opportunity to feel safe. And by the way, safety is a feeling, it's not a thought. And healing only happens at the speed of safety. Healing only happens at the speed of safety. And the most fundamental need every human being has is to feel safe. So when my mother was beating me and telling me to shut up or give me something to cry about, the last thing I felt was with the one person whom I should feel safe around. Yes? So until I feel safe, I won't heal. And we don't heal what we don't feel. Yes, Joe? So I create space for you to have a chance to feel safe. And if I tune into the fact, my in-tune-ition, I get in tune with you. If I sense that you are feeling safe, I just try to hold that space for you to finally feel safe enough to feel that thing that got buried alive and fully metabolized, by the way. Everything in the universe has a life cycle, right? A little tadpole becomes a frog, becomes food for a bass. The bass then becomes food for the eagle, who eventually becomes food for the fly maggot, who then becomes food for, right? Particles floating around in the universe eventually get close enough together that they form something, and then next thing you know we have a star, and then it gathers planets around it, and then it turns into a black hole, and everything in life, always, is on its way to somewhere else, up to and including our feelings and our emotional experiences. But humans have been uniquely gifted with the ability to hit pause on the life cycle of our feelings. But they don't die. They just get buried alive. And sooner or later, the body will tell you, through whatever means necessary, there's something further down there in that soil. But we don't go there until we feel safe. So I'm a spaceman. I try to create space for people to feel safe. And if you do, then you usually can make a lot of progress, because your healing, as they would tell you, is not actually on that table or at the end of that needle or inside that pill and that herb. That's not where it actually is. Your healing is actually inside of you. You were created to heal. Our Creator designed us to heal and be well. Only question is, am I activating it? Am I partnering with people who know how to help me activate it? And at the end of the day, am I taking full responsibility? Right? I'm not the victim after all. Although I've been telling myself that story for a long, long time. It was really getting in the way of me experiencing my healing. Yes?
When you deal with people in this sense, do they, after they find out what was bothering them all the time, is it something that they remember happening, or is it something that they repressed so much that they didn't have a clue about?
Yeah, most commonly, the things that happen to us that are most long-lasting are 0 to 8 years old. Up to and including in the womb, by the way. Right? So my mother was married out of wedlock in 1968, southern United States. A lot of shame around that. There's no question there was a lot of shame talk while I was growing in the womb. I was carrying that energy. By the way, if you have somebody in your life, if you, the person you see in the mirror, or if you have a client who just can't seem to get over something, they can't seem to solve something, you probably have somebody who's working on a problem that isn't theirs. they're trying to solve a problem that's not their problem. It got passed on to them by someone else, which is also why that person can't get better, right? She had all 495 pieces of the puzzle and the box top because it was her puzzle, but she gave me 5 of them. And I've been over here trying to solve these 5 problems, these 5 puzzle pieces, but they won't fit together. I can't make any progress with this. Neither can she, because she needs those 5 puzzle pieces back. One of the nicest things you can do is give people back what was never yours to carry in the first place. So a lot of people discovered that they were passed on things that weren't theirs to carry in the first place. And a lot of people do have images and things come up that they thought that they didn't remember. But it is in your subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind remembers everything, perfect detail, perfect everything. And our subconscious mind kind of gets a bad, are y'all done? Can I talk some more? So our subconscious mind actually gets a bad reputation, like some sort of boogeyman that's out to get us. But that's not true. Our subconscious mind is a lot more like a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old whose favorite game is make-believe and dress up. And so it'll even make up wild, strange, scary costumes to try and play the game of how scary that thing was for us, right? So as we begin to make friends with our subconscious mind through memory reconsolidation therapy, our subconscious mind will start to trust us a little bit. Because we've been telling our subconscious mind something all our lives. Don't let me see that. And our subconscious mind is, yes, right, don't let you see that. And now we say, let me see a little bit. They're like, I'm not so sure. You've been telling me for a life, who are you? Can I see some ID? You've been telling me not to let you see that for a long time. So it'll bring out a little something and it'll see how you interact with that. And if you interact with it, next time you come back, it'll bring out something else. And if you keep playing nice, one day it'll go, okay, you want to see the real thing? Here, this is the thing. And by the way, it wasn't that thing, it was how you interpreted that thing. It was the story you told yourself about that thing. It was the beliefs that got indoctrinated to you about that thing that you were defenseless about, that you didn't know got installed. Carl Jung also says, because until we make what is unconscious conscious, it runs our lives. And we call it fate. But the moment you call it conscious, you can choose. And when you can choose, you can change. And when you change, you can heal. And that's how it works. But that takes time, and it takes a relationship. And a lot of times it takes getting some goo out of your system, some toxicity out of your bones, some weirdness out of your blood. It takes getting a supplement into your tissues that you don't have. In fact, when I refer people to Charity, I say she's an expert in what I call micro toxicity and micro malnutrition. And she uses the energy of her body to get really down into the really fine, there's no other test that's going to tell us that. But we're getting down to step 1. We're step 1 of where you were toxic, and we're step 1 of where you were malnourished. And then we support that for a while, and I typically don't offer people an opportunity to come work with me on these deeper layers until they have 2 or 3 months of that kind of treatment in place. Because real emotional decontamination is a very energetic, expensive process. So you need to have your superficial layers in better shape before you go there.
How long does it typically take? When you say sessions, how many on average?
Most people get 80% of their entire baggage offloaded in 6 to 8 visits every 2 weeks over 3 to 4 months. And they offload baggage that they weren't supposed to be carrying anymore. It's really amazing to finally get down into the thing and get it out.
Can you repeat that amount of time?
Yeah, typically about 3 to 4 months. Yeah, it's 6 to 8 visits over 3 to 4 months, and it's typically every other week kind of a thing. Neural integration is a real phenomenon. You can actually, in neural integration, you're going into memories. Memories, by the way, okay, this is the last one. Memories are not really what you think they are. Memories are actually a holographic container that our magnificent, mysterious psyche was gifted to create, to hold on to an experience we had that had thoughts and that had feelings and that had conclusions we drew about that experience, right? I concluded that my mother would love me if I didn't cry. Yes? And I was wrong, wasn't I? And how was my 4-year-old going to know that he was wrong? Because, by the way, when he stopped crying, she stopped spanking, so it worked. So my holographic memory of that includes a survival strategy called a belief, an experiential conclusion that I drew. But later on in life, it's not working for me, right? When some other adult does something in such a way and I find myself firing off this program, and it's not giving me what I want anymore, if I can go back into that memory, which serves as just a signpost for a moment in time when I have an experience, and under the guidance of someone who can help me, I can deconstruct that experience and actually let those feelings complete their life cycle. Feelings of fear, feelings of shame, feelings of confusion, feelings of anger, feelings of I want to run away but I can't. When I let those things finally complete their life cycle, they're very much like a wave that was about to crest and didn't get its chance to. And now it crests, it dissipates, it might knock me over in the process, but when it finally gets to the shore, even the little 6-week-old sitting there on the shore, it causes no harm at all, right? 50 yards out there are going to kill me. Right here on the shore, it does nothing, and then it dissipates back into where? I don't know, it's gone. Yes. And then the last part is you reinstall a different experience in your subconscious mind. It concludes in a different way because you can't do anything about the unconscious design. It's designed to run programs without talking to me about it. It's a gift, actually, right? That couple weeks ago, when you drove home and you were on the phone and the baby was crying and you had that conversation plus another person and you got home and you're like, how did I get home? Yes, remember when you did that? That's because you have a person who lives inside you called the unconscious driver, who's actually a better driver than you. Want proof? You just got home. And you didn't drive you home. Yes, you didn't. She's a better driver than you are. We don't want to fire her, right? We want her on our team. She knows some stuff. Yes. So, but all you do then is you just have her eject the lousy music from the tape deck, and you put a different tape in there, and then you let your unconscious mind run a different program so that the next time that situation arises, I fire off this whole other program that allows me to be sweet and kind and patient and loving and observant, and I don't take the bait.
That's right.
I don't take the bait.
That's right.
But I got to put a different program in there, or I'll keep taking the bait.
That's right.
Yes?
That's right.
So,
Bait is Satan.
yeah, that's the idea. It's very fantastic stuff.
I'm sorry, I keep having questions.
And I so hope this clinic succeeds beyond my wildest dreams, because if I could do nothing all day for free, I'd do what I just described.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hopeful to be able to support this clinic in such a way that I can spend even more of my time doing that kind of care. And ultimately, do it for people who can't afford it. Because everybody has trauma. Yes.
Who would know that we need to have that type of service? Would it be charity, or she's gonna know that because we're not healing from whatever is
Part of the
going on?
bond that she and I share is this deep appreciation for this concept of emotional healing. And so her intuition is really good. And we talk, we both study from sort of different angles. She's continuing her education, and as am I, we're learning from different masters in the field. And so we're just really tuned into that. And we don't necessarily recommend it for everyone.
I remember when a long time ago, I took a self-hypnosis class from, and I was just wondering, does part of your part of your program include hypnosis?
Yeah.
And I remember the teacher talking about we would be in a, in a trance, and he would talk about you go into this room and we're going to clean it out. And I it didn't click with me until you were talking about what he was doing. Yeah.
Well, actually, you were doing it.
Yeah.
But
he
I can't get in there.
He was guiding us through it. Yeah. So.
And sidebar, you want a respectable, kind, God-loving person walking around in your brain with you.
Yeah.
Be careful who you invite in there, right?
He was.
But I still can't do anything in there. You can do something in there, but to empower you to do that. So we now know brain waves. Standing here talking now, we're all sort of using alpha brain waves. Our brain is making alpha waves. When your unconscious driver is driving you home, those are beta brain waves. When you're in deep sleep, those are called delta brain waves. When you're in deep prayer, deep meditation, we're in about 2 minutes from waking up to getting out of bed and the 2 minutes of falling asleep. You're in theta brain wave predominant. What you might call a trance or self-hypnosis. Magic happens in the theta brain wave states. Whole regions of our brain will talk to each other that they will not talk to each other in other ways. I can't prove it. I'm pretty sure that's where the subconscious mind, that's the frequency, is theta waves. And that's the part of your brain you have to get to trust you a little bit. And so yeah, a lot of what happens in the memory reconsolidation therapy is creating space for you to create your own theta wave state and then helping you through neuro-linguistic programming to stay in that theta wave state. Because the key really is to be able to have your subconscious, your superconscious, and your conscious mind all back on the same place at the same time. Because then they can make a change.
Thank you.
Usually the way you end up getting to me is you keep telling yourself, okay, yeah, gotta go see that guy. I want some of that. That's for me. Nobody needs to usually tell you that you need to spend some time with me.
What did you say the name of this therapy is?
Memory reconsolidation therapy. It falls under the banner of coherence therapy.
Memory
Reconsolidation therapy. It falls under coherence therapy. So for years and years and years, there was talk therapy. And it's great. Talk therapy is wonderful. It helps a lot. But those talk therapists began to notice people aren't really getting better. They're not really changing after years and years of really good talk therapy. So a whole field of psychology emerged. Marty Seligman was kind of on the point of this. People like Martin Buber and Marshall Rosenberg, some really good clinical psychologists and psychiatrists said, well, there's got to be something different. And here's what they basically discovered. And this really is the last thing I'm going to say.
I have another question. No.
It's her fault. What really noticed was in the mid-70s, they said, well, really, psychology and psychiatry has been all about taking really broken brains, schizophrenics, and brains like that, and just trying to get them back into functional brains. But they began to look around and said, well, but they're like, my 5-year-old has way better than a functional brain. It has like a happy brain. It has like a flourishing brain. In fact, I bump into people all the time whose brains are, I'd rather have a good brain rather than a normal brain. So those psychiatrists and psychologists began to pursue something called positive psychology. There's a whole field called positive psychology. And in that container, they saw that this idea of talk therapy was only helping a person use about 1 to 2% of their brain to try to deal with all of their life experiences. Yeah, the body keeps the score. There you go. So he was one of them.
Have you read them yet?
So Vanderkolk.
They're on my list.
Vanderkolk is an MD, psychiatrist by training, but a PhD also in neurophysiology, and a Canadian-trained physician. And he really began to put the first studies to this mind-body connection thing. He was one of the ones who realized that talk therapy is good, but not so much. They didn't realize this at the time, but it turns out that this talk therapy tries to get you to connect to the place in your brain that was never really there. That part of your brain that tells you the story about what happened is making it up. It wasn't there. Your eyeball was there. Your skin was there. Your smell was there. Your hearing was there. They all sent through nerve fibers that did something somewhere, we're not sure, and some little person down there started making up a story about it. That's called your analytical brain. Your analytical brain was not really at the scene of the accident. He's only putting together a story from the eyewitnesses who were there, and then we go with that story. Talk therapy talks to that guy all the time, which is why he never changes his story. So they created something called somatic therapy, which is your body was there, so let's talk to your body. After all, your body's talking to you. Want proof? It made a cyst. That was your body talking to you. Say, hey, I was at the scene of the accident. You don't need to talk to her anymore. She wasn't there. Talk to me. I was there. So that's what somatic therapy is about. Muscle testing is somatic therapy. It's talking to your body. Acupuncture is talking to your body. Those sorts of things are talking to your body. But you can learn even deeper ways to talk to your body and to learn how your body talks to you. I'll give you a big clue. For free. Your body doesn't use words. body uses feelings, sensations, energies, vibrations. A lot of times we use symbols and metaphors. And if you find yourself with lots of words about your feelings, you're actually thinking your feelings, you're not feeling your feelings. And in the West, we have been taught to think our feelings and tell ourselves, because we thought them through so thoroughly that we actually felt them, but all we did was bury them alive. And you remember what they do, they rise as zombies later.
I know you said no more questions.
I didn't actually say that. I said I wasn't going to say anymore. So
Are you familiar with German medicine?
I am very
So that
familiar.
is related.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was born at the same time. There was a really good scientist in Germany who said
Every organ is
all of that, 100%. And that's what Charity actually has spent a lot of time studying, is that relationship between organs, especially lately. I can speak for you. She's been studying the relationship of cancer effects on the immune. How is cancer telling me that this organ, and specifically this type of trauma, this type of emotional baggage, this particular type of emotional toxicity, right? And there's a lot of research emerging around that. So, somatic therapy has lots of things. You might have heard of EMDR and art therapy and those IDTSP, and there's 15, 20 different varieties of this. In my opinion, memory consolidation therapy is the deepest so far. It gets us down to what I find to be the most causal layer. EMDR, and I do that as well, is really particularly good for recent trauma, but it's not particularly good for old trauma. In fact, that group of people will tell you if you use it inappropriately for old trauma, you make it worse, not better. So a good therapist will tell you, oh, you want to do EMDR for something that happened 50 years ago? No, we really shouldn't do that, because it makes it worse, not better. And that's because it's not really getting you to the deepest tissue storage, right? But memory consolidation therapy does.
And what is the question?
Yes, do you-
Deep meditation.
That's theta brainwave states.
Right, does that help you?
It does.
Like if you go into the silence.
Yeah, it does. It does, because when we're in deep theta state, we're usually in better heart rate variability. We're usually breathing more slowly. Our blood pressure is lower. We're usually digesting better, and our tissues are usually repairing better. So a deep meditative state for 20 minutes a day literally sort of turns on the heal and repair mechanisms of your body and gives them a chance to get ahead of the manufacturing side of your body.
Okay.
And you last
So that would
longer.
help out with Hashimoto.
100%.
I haven't done it in years, and all of a sudden Hashimoto shows up.
Yeah, 100%. So Hashimoto's, by the way, is just a word.
Right.
It's just a label
I know.
to
All of them are.
conveniently describe some experiences your body seems to be having and had some time in the past.
I know, I've gone through a lot that I cried out, and a lot of things have changed.
Good.
But it never occurred to me that I might be.
So if you're still making antibodies, there are parts of your body that are telling you, I'm still inflamed at an energetic level.
Okay.
You might want to spend some time with it.
I just have two basic.
And I'm not advertising for my services, by the way. That's not what I'm up here doing. Actually, what I'm doing is having a ball. This is what I would do. I would talk about this stuff all the time to anybody who would listen, and nobody in my family likes to listen to it. They've heard it.
I just have two basic questions. How often will you be in this office? And then, does insurance cover any of your services?
No,
Okay.
insurance does not cover any of my services.
Okay.
And that's because there is no way in the world you would get this kind of devotion, care, and attention if you got an insurance company involved.
That's true.
Because they're not interested in your health. So, I don't know how often I will be here. Probably not very much initially. But she and I work very closely together with lots of mutual patients. In fact, it's not uncommon for us to work for a little while and then maybe have one visit with me and let me kind of chime in from that side and do some more things. You can always have a virtual visit with me, which is just way better than nothing. It really is way better than nothing. Like I said, head coach the whole thing for you from time to time. And ultimately, I would hope to have a physician assistant here who really would be a true extension of me. Would be somebody that I would have trained and really apprenticed to really bring about this care. In fact, I'm actually trying to figure that out now, because I won't do this forever. But somebody said this so well the other day when it was a dude talking to me, so I'm going to use dude language. He said, when an old man dies, an entire library burns to the ground. And I was like, oh man, that's true. So I'm not old yet. However, I did discover at dinner last night, much to my chagrin, that I'm officially a middle-aged person. That's terrible news. I was like, I'm not even cool. I'm not an old guy. I'm just a middle-aged guy. What do you do as a middle-aged guy? I don't
I was
know.
informed that I was a senior at age 7.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that's what he's all wrinkles.
That's right. So I don't want the library to burn to the ground. So I'm on a mission to get this stuff out. So let me close with this. Thank you. Thank you for being here in this room. Thank you for choosing this space. Thank you for making eye contact with me. Thank you for giving me a chance to have my very best life today. I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I do want that back.
I do want that. Sorry, I was dying. Thank you all for making today so special and for coming to meet everyone and learning about the new providers that we have. And I just really feel blessed, and I know that I speak for everyone else that they feel the same, to have you all in our lives and to trust us to help you. So, you know, if you guys have any questions, you know I'm always available. Phone number is going to be the same, so you can reach out to Charity. I'm so grateful that Dr. Johnson's on board and is able to provide you guys with even more services and professional expertise in his area, and the possibility of having a medical provider here is mind-blowing. I think you definitely should take advantage of that. And
Thank you for bringing me.
it's God, not me. I take no credit. So with that being said, we have a couple more raffles to be done, and thank you.